Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Seismic Soccer. I'm your host, James, and today we have got Colin, who is Jimmy Bullard. How you doing, Colin?
Yeah, good, thanks.
I'm good as well, thanks for asking. And
I thought that was just implied that you were... Well, I thought all three of us would ask that and it would just become repetitive, so...
that's fine, don't worry. We've got Gary, who's Virgil van Dijk. How you doing, Gary?
I'm good, thanks. How you doing yourself, mate?
See that there, Colin? That was,
Manners.
Manners, aye.
I just wanted to keep the pace going.
That's fine. I'm good, Gary, thanks. And today we've got a very special guest. We have got Craig from What's the Script. How you doing, Craig?
Absolutely brilliant, James Dessers. How are you? How are you, mate? How are you?
Aye, I'm very good, thank you. A lot of how are yous. Can you give Colin one of them?
James, is it too late to ask how you are?
I am. It's not too late, mate. It's never too late to care over one person. So yeah, I'm fine, mate. So yes, so let's get into it then. So Craig, since you are the guest, could you want to give a wee shout out to your pods and stuff like that before I start getting into ours, and kind of tell us about your pod and where to find you, etc.
Of course I can. Thanks very much, mate. I'm Craig. I am one half of What's the Script, which is the quintessentially Scottish movie review podcast / comedy in there as well. Me and Big Chris do a weekly review of our kind of favourite movies during the years, and we do it with a hint of comedic value towards it, some impressions, some slandering. We take a bit of the piss as well, but we do get a bit of factual content in there, and you can find us on all the usual platforms, including YouTube, the artist formerly known as Twitter, which is X, Facebook, Instagram, the whole shebang. And I'm pretty sure, as we've alluded to this season, every week we're kind of saying every week something different. If you can find us down the back of the couch or find us in a dog bowl, you can find us anywhere. Find us anywhere if you look for us.
I've enjoyed that wee bit your second of your pods. You've been kind of saying different things every week, so it's made me chuckle. I listened to your the Face Off episodes. That was a cracking episode. They all are cracking episodes, mate. So well done on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Do check out What's the Script, because honestly, why the first pods I heard was Jingle the Way, and it's honestly so funny. But I check them out, man.
You got to get into trouble, man. Jamie.
Right. So we are Seismic Soccer, but this is just a show of Seismic Cinema. So if you want to check us out, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can follow us for all the latest news and what we're watching, etc. You can watch and listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and any other decent place you can listen to your pods in that. And because I can't afford a mic, you can help me buy a mic and buy us a coffee at /Seismic Cinema, and all the proceeds will go towards my microphone if I get them at Colin's bank account.
Good luck.
Aye.
Well, help James buy a mic. He can afford an £80 Rangers tote, but he can't afford a microphone. You know what I mean? So help him, guys.
That's true. There's no coming back from that, is there really? Right. Okay. So we just get into it then, because we've got Paul. By the way, he's an absentee tonight. He sends his apologies. We are still going to cover Paul's topic though, because I'd made something up for it, and I'm not going to all that time and not doing it. So we're still going to cover it.
James, if my calculations are correct, Paul's missed the last 3. Is that not 3 strikes and you're out?
So you missed Titanic, which by the way was the last episode that will be released hopefully this week.
And the dark room.
Can't wait for that, by the way. Can't wait for that. That is probably up there as number 1 of 2 of my guilty pleasures. So get it out. Going to get it out tomorrow, please.
We're trying our best.
Well, don't worry, it'll come. So Paul has missed Titanic, this one in the dark room.
Mm-hmm.
So I think words need to be had then, Colin.
Gary, you looking to go full time?
Like I say, I've seen 20 films in Rockies and 6 of them. So I can't fill in, unfortunately. But
Worth a shot.
Big for Paul, I think.
Only joking, Paul. We hope your boiler's okay.
Right, okay. So this is the 5th episode of Seismic Soccer. The topics, for those who are watching on YouTube, you can see the topics on the weaker scrolly thing at the bottom. So I'm not going to go into them just yet. We laugh at Colin. Technical terms. Aye. Well, you've got a ticker, I suppose. So, Craig, because you're the guest, we always ask the guest to go first. So you wanted to come on tonight and discuss the 3 foreigner rule. Is that correct?
As indeed. Thank you very much for putting the pressure on and let me go first. That's a nice surprise. No, listen, there's a lot of people out there that will laugh at this, right? But I think if you sit back and take stock of the way world football is at the moment, then the 3 foreigner rule would be more beneficial than detrimental to European football. And listen, I don't care what happens outside kind of Europe, like Saudi and Oceanic and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about mainstream football, right? UEFA football, the Champions League, blah, blah, blah. It used to be back in the day that the 3 foreigner rule was only implemented in Europe when you qualify for European competition. And it was detrimental. As a Scottish football fan, it was detrimental to Scottish football teams. It really was. The only other league I can remember it being paramount in was Serie A, which was the best league in the world at the time, with the 3 foreigner rule. So people that really don't know football would probably come back and say, yeah, but it's fully Italians. Aye, that is fully Italians because it had to be fully Italians. Whereas if you had it in Germany, England, Scotland, Switzerland, Sweden, Denmark, any of these leagues, it would be fully the homegrown players. Now, it's no secret, James, along with yourself, that I've kind of fell out with the national team through no fault of the national team per se. It's through the fault of other parameters, which we'll not get into because it's a whole other podcast, right? But my second strip was always a Scotland strip. My second team was always Scotland. My biggest buzz was always Ali McCoist, Richard Gough, Andy Gorham making the Scotland team. Always was, but that's fell by the wayside. However, thinking about the domestic game and thinking about the national team, the 3 foreigner rule implemented would not only help our national team, but across Europe, it would help the nations at every league. It would curb transfer. I think it would curb transfer values. It would curb wages as well. And it would kind of force teams into producing or into bringing up their youth, bringing up their homegrown players. In Britain, we've got a kind of luxury where the 3 foreigner rule was implemented. England, Scotland, and Wales, Northern Ireland was included as homegrown as well. So we've got that advantage as well. But I don't like football anymore. I like my domestic game. I like my team. I'm a Rangers fan. I go and see Clydebank when I can't go and see Rangers. I just like the honesty of football, and I just think it's just lost in us now. I think wages, transfer fees, everything, it isn't astronomical. It's disgusting. It sickens me. And I think we need to just tear it back, get back to basics, and give our youth a chance. And it's not going to happen. I mean, think of the players that some teams in England get EPL is a big example, isn't it? EPL is just stupid. Transfer wise, before this PP, financial fair play into play, and now they're all themselves, but they were buying players for France, for Germany. You'd never heard of. Never heard of it. £18 million to Newcastle and £50 million to fucking Crystal Palace. And who is he? You never hear him again. They maybe had 5 games and go away. Whereas there's 10, 20 guys sitting in their reserve, sitting in their B team, just choking for an opportunity that weren't going to get them. So it might be detrimental to the big teams in the short term, but I just think it would be advantageous to all the teams in the long term. And if I remember right, it was taken out of Europe because somebody came up and said, equal opportunities, these Europeans need to be allowed to play anywhere in Europe, you know. And come on, just give youth a chance, give our homegrown boys a chance. So I don't know what you guys think about it. I just think long term, 3-4 in a row domestically and in Europe would be brilliant. Take it away.
Aye, I mean, I wouldn't go into give my opinion too much on this. I let the guys kind of carry on this, but I'll just kind of give my 2 pence worth just briefly. Personally, I don't think clubs care about that. They're all about the money. They want success. They want the money. And I don't think personally the clubs give a damn about the country doing well. They don't. They can say congratulations, X, Y, and Z made the national team, but really they don't care. They pay the wages of the players. If they get injured in national duty, then they pick up the slack for that. They're still paying the wages. It's all about money. It will never happen again. The game is gone completely. But I like the idea of that coming back again. It make it a kind of even playing field for teams to actually win. Like, also we can draw comparisons to our league in Scotland. If Rangers or Celtic didn't have the money to buy the foreigners into the country, then youth would need to be given a chance, and that gives the other teams a more of a fighting chance to win silverware, I think. But I'll let Colin pick it up first and see what he thinks.
I've got some thoughts on this.
Oh, good. Talk.
No, it was just a wee joke from earlier. No, I really like the way you guys put it across. I wasn't quite sure what route Craig was going to take with this when he first mentioned it. So, how far back does it go? I obviously remember the 3 foreigners rule being a thing back when like Walter was in charge. In terms, but it was just was it in Europe then, or was it?
It was mid to late 90s. It was European football for European Cup, Euro, UEFA Cup, blah, blah, blah. The only major league I remember having it and still in the league was Serie A.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, they were the best league in the world for like 30 years. And they seemed to get by with no problem at all. Mm-hmm. And their teams were still winning European Cups and UEFA Cups. And their national team was doing all right. They never won for a spell, but they were still doing all right. They were still getting to semi-finals and quarter-finals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I totally understand, James, what you said there, and I totally agree with it. I totally 100% agree with it. However, if we were told tomorrow that by season 26, 27, this was happening, it would be happening. And I just think it would force us into reducing. Do you know what I mean?
It does make me sad when you look at like the Rangers team. You've got Jack, who barely plays now, and Suter and McCausland counts as homegrown. But just the one good thing nowadays is we've got quite a few British players. Like you've got quite a few English players and a few Welsh players as well. So we're kind of getting that kind of British mentality back in the squad, but the amount of Scottish players is still pretty dead on the ground. What would actually be quite an interesting kind of tangent of this is if the rule was in play right now, who are you keeping? Don't know. I just thought it'd be an interesting
You just stop. You're just
retake.
lowering my segments for later on. So
How was that? How was I supposed to know that? Right, just Paul, edit this out. We'll come back. But yeah, I like the idea of it. I do like the idea of it.
I remember Man United. Man United had Giggs, Schmeichel, Kanchelskis. That was the three foreigners. Do you know what I mean? Rangers had maybe Mikhailichenko, Hustra, and I don't know, somebody else. Celtic had Tom, DeCanio, Van Hooijdonk. Celtic had some three foreigners, but brilliant actually.
Yeah.
Just if you can force that upon the major teams, the smaller teams. I mean, James makes a good point about domestic, right? And the worry is you're getting a level playing field to the domestic teams getting a trophy and stuff, but you're really not. Rangers and Celtic will always attract the best homegrown talent, so they'll always get them. Under the old guys, which was British, then Rangers and Celtic would still get the barometer of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales as well, so you're still getting that. It's just, I don't know, I think it's a good idea. I just think football's got so perverse that there's got to be sanctions coming into place. There's got to be something to force the hand of nations to produce. Do you know what I mean? Because there's too many young boys I went to school with, boys I've took to watch football and all that I've seen boys that are great at football and just never got a chance. I don't know, just an idea.
Something we spoke about in a previous one, I think it's when we picked the Scotland squad, is large portions of the national teams they don't even have a major connection to Scotland. Sometimes like it's a distant relative or they've never even lived in the country, and it's like I feel like you're right. I think the national teams would be a lot stronger. I don't know if it's just kind of rose-tinted glasses, but I don't know. The international football doesn't really fill me with. I still enjoy like the World Cup final with Messi, etc. But I just look back so fondly on the like Italian team with Totti, the Dutch team with Bergkamp. Like they're just not they don't seem as strong nowadays. I wouldn't say.
It's not as big a draw as it used to be when you were a kid. You're right, mate. You're absolutely right. And even though I was a Scotland fan at that, I remember Italia 90. See Italia 90, the opening day Scotland played Costa Rica. I had a paper round. I threw my papers in the fucking bushes and just went home to watch Scotland getting beat by Costa Rica. But even after that, every other game, Italy, Ireland, Holland, Germany, and it just seemed like a big, huge thing, whereas the new it just seems so commercial and unwatchable, man. The English Premiership just does my nothing. It really does. There's 80% of that league is bang average foreigners. Absolutely. Garbage that just get overpaid to come to England. It's mental, man. Mental.
I think one of the biggest problems you'll find is that we can all talk this way and we remember, like, I think you're spot on, Craig, like Serie A back in the 90s. It's no coincidence that was like a golden generation. I say golden generation, it was decades of them producing the best players in the world, and I don't think it's a coincidence that happened to them around about that time. But I think the problem is there's a generation of football fans now who are used to the way it is in terms of they don't think long term and they don't see the benefits that we would, about long term and developing players and stuff. I don't think the younger football fan in general cares about that. I think they want their international teams and players on TikTok and all that kind of thing. I think that's the game they want. And it doesn't bear any resemblance to the game that we all probably grew up watching.
Right, you're 100% right. And James said it off the bat. He said everything why it would never happen because the people in charge and the powers that be, UEFA and all that, they don't want that. This is the reason the Champions League doesn't incorporate champions anymore. It
Aye,
incorporates second and third places and people that follow parachutes out of other competitors. It's just money, and it's sad. I just wanted to gauge you guys on a personal level, what you thought. That was all. You know what I mean? And Italy was the golden generation because they forced themselves into being the golden generation. They said we're doing this 3 foreigner rule. Don't be wrong. Listen, see the 3 foreigners every team bought. They were the best 3 foreigners
Aye.
in European world football at the time. Just need to look at AC Milan, didn't you? With the 3 Dutch guys, and every other team followed suit in that league. But my God, they were the best 3 foreigners that they could implement in a league team ever.
Yeah.
Great, man.
Do you know what I think? I mean, I agree with everybody. It'll never happen because the reason FIFA and UEFA don't want it to happen is because there's too many people outside the game, sponsors, TV companies that wouldn't stand for it. So it will never happen. But I've said for years, like Scotland, for example, does annoy me when you see Celtic and Rangers with limited Scottish players in, say, Champions League. We've not been too bad. We've had a few players in the team like Cal McGregor and stuff, but other than that, there's been times where it's been 1 or 2, and I think Rangers probably similar or less at times. But I think there's still room for something in the middle. Like I still think because I think foreigners can be quite a good influence in a league in the right dose. They can bring a different way of playing, a different way of training. If you think probably British football culture back in the 90s, it probably would really go today, in terms of the players need to be athletes and not. So I think that a lot of foreign coaches and players probably helped British players kind of along on that. I think towards that, a more the way they train and kind of live as professionals and stuff like that. So I think foreigners can be a good influence on a league and they can bring it up and stuff. But I still think leagues like Scotland in particular that don't have all this money flying about, that are dependent really. We've got the biggest we should be producing players, developing players, and making our money from them, selling on these players and things like that. That's the way we've got money. Stevie isn't going to give us it. So I think this, and then obviously the football benefits like the national team and stuff. There's got to be something in the middle. That's you've got to have 3, 4, 5 players at least in your team or in your squad or something. It's got to be some sort of that's maybe not as extreme as only 3 foreigners. Do you know what I mean? That still.
No, I agree. I've come on with the 3 foreigners because that's what we were used to. But you're right, mate. I do not decry a European or a South American coming out here to kick on and play the game of football. So you're probably right. Aye, maybe better being sanctions as to your first 11 maybe has to have at least 3 homegrown players in it. Your full squad has to have 5, and your 24 that you register has to have 8 or something like that. Yeah, you're probably better off.
Because it's
You've made a good point.
Because when you're bringing through young players, you want them to be playing against. If they're playing against better players within the limit, then it might be probably better for their development. It's when you fill the league with form, that's when it loses its kind of thing. But I'm trying to think I don't know some of the better Rangers players are now. A young player for another team is better for playing against the top kind of foreigners in your team, or the top, a Scottish defender's better for playing against a Kyogo or a Scottish, but you know what I mean, a foreign player.
Aye, no, great points. Aye, there's no doubt Simon Donnelly was better for playing with Cadet, and there's no doubt that Charlie Miller was better for playing with Laudrup.
Aye,
100%. And against Cadet and against Laudrup as well. You're right. So
definitely. So
if you know the 3 foreigner, then put other kind of parameters. You're good points, mate. Great points, actually.
UEFA obviously are doing. They incorporate the homegrown players into the UEFA squads and whatever. I mean, so they do some of that, but I agree it's probably not enough. But I particularly work for Italy, obviously, but I can't really. For me, I don't really care about it. If I'm being honest with you, I like the idea of it back in the day, but see now football's moved on so much. People are no interested in that anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's all about. You also mentioned as well that younger kind of generation of football fans. I think the younger generation of football fans don't necessarily follow a team as such. They kind of follow players. So you mentioned your TikToks and you mentioned Instagram and all that sort of stuff. So, for example, right, I'm a Messi fanboy, but I wouldn't go and support PSG when they move to PSG or Inter Miami. Do you know what I mean? But I think that's what's happening to younger generations. Anyway, I'll get off on a tangent there, but I
know what you mean, mate. I know what you mean.
Aye.
Young boys like Mbappe and they like fucking Bellingham and they like players around the world, Ronaldo and Messi. That you're right, and they'll buy the PSG tracky because I'm Mbappe, and they'll buy the kind of Argentina top because of Messi. You're right. It's not a kind of team thing, but just a thought.
No, it's a good discussion, man. So following on from the discussion, I think it's a good idea. If you had to select only three pupils there, Colin, three players for your football team, then 3 foreign players for your football team, who would you include? So, Gary, I want to come to you first.
What we've got to be playing today?
Yes.
Your squad now, aye.
So it only had to be 3. So Scottish players will always be there, but if you just had to select 3 foreign players to play in that team, who would it be?
Probably Haaland because he'd score a barrel load in Scotland.
No, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Current foreign. See the foreign
players in the Celtic squad.
Oh, sorry. So what? So what's the thing? I've got to pick 3 foreign players to play in the national team.
No.
Sorry, I've misunderstood this.
No. So see the current Celtic team now.
Aye.
You get a shitload of foreigners, aren't you, in there?
Aye.
So which 3 would you only pick to play the now?
Oh, only pick to play now. All right, okay. Probably. Oh Christ, there's no many of them been playing well this season. Carter Vickers, if he counts, will he count as a foreigner?
American, isn't he?
Aye, American. But I think
American.
he's got.
I know that. Did not know that.
He's kind of English accent, but I think he's like eligible for England and America. But yeah, I guess he'd count. So Vickers for sure. Probably. I guess Kyogo, even though he's not having a good season. Probably. Again, Matt O'Reilly might count as like a foreigner because he's sort of Danish, but he's English.
He's sort of Danish.
Yeah, he's like half English, half Danish or something. So I don't know
bring out the bacon.
I'm going to.
Like,
He's a Danish international, so I'm going to keep him as a foreigner.
What's it based on? Well, we know business and Kyogo's not been good, but I'd say probably those 3, probably.
Okay.
Aye, but yeah.
Okay, Colin.
Right, I was thinking about this while Gary was deliberating. So I would go Yilmaz because he's by far our best left back. Because a lot of our team is British, maybe not Scottish. There's quite a few English and Welsh players in there. I go Diomande because he's been a bit of a baller since he came into the team. A couple of long range goals, and I was tempted by Cortez, but I think in the current squad, it's got to be the boy Dessers out of the current squad, the current team, because he's the only guy.
Look, James's face.
He's the only like Silva's your other option there.
Oh, big angry drink of juice. Big angry drink of juice there, James.
I'm going Yilmaz, Diomande, and Dessers with a shout out to Cortez, I would say. Because like Cantwell's English, Lundstrom's English, Suter's Scottish, Tavernier, Butland, Goldson, quite a lot of them are British. So are we still counting that in terms of like the British, English, Welsh counting as? Yeah.
Aye.
So that's what I'm going with.
Sure does. Craig?
I cannot disagree with my man Colin there. They 3 will do me fine. Because Dessers was going to be there anyway. Just for shite housery. So I'll go with the same. Same as Colin. 100%. Lock me in.
Okay. Well, that was a good discussion there. I quite
Over
enjoyed
you,
it.
James.
What about you, James?
Get all the way off the thing.
Well, I'm going to go with Ridvan. Definitely, he's been solid. And he's just showing up Barisic now, so he is.
It's not hard.
I'm all showed up Barisic going for the messages all day.
Well, I was quite angry in the chat, so I was the other night, so you get my feelings on him. You forget how much of the team is British, don't you?
Jesus is getting picked here.
Gilman has played well. Can't fault him there. So you got just like Lawrence and
Say Dessers. Say
Maton.
Dessers.
Lawrence and Maton were both Welsh, aren't they? So they're still homegrown. And I think Silver's been really good since he came in.
I would say really good. Really good.
Nah, I'm kidding on. I'm going to go with Dessers.
Hey.
Dessers. So this brings me on to because I'm going to play a clip from the first ever episode from Seismic Soccer 1. So if you bear with me for a second, I'm going to share that clip.
James, what do you say to your pupils if you're stuck? Move on to the next one and go back to it.
It's too early to say Dessers for Rangers.
So that was me in Seismic Soccer 1 wishing Dessers to retire and stick him into a time capsule, never to be seen again.
You want me alone, mate.
You'll be regretting that when he lifts the league title in May, hopefully.
Well, this is me giving a public apology to Cyril Dessers to say, sorry, I jumped the gun. I was too quick to judge. You're done, not too bad. Keep it up. The good work, son.
So the is Dessers doing well? I thought he was still hopeless now. Has he been scoring? Right.
Scoring and creating.
Gary, don't you pretend you're not got the Rangers notifications on your phone.
I know he's winning, but no, I didn't realise he turned it around. Oh, there you go.
Right.
He's left Kyogo in the fucking dust anyway, I'll tell you that.
That's why there's still 2 firm games to go. Let's not
let's stay humble.
Right,
moving on then. So I'm going to skip. I'm going to go to Gary now, and Gary, you want to talk about Celtic and Brendan Rodgers? Is that correct?
Yeah. So I picked. When I said I was going to talk about this, it was half time on Sunday against Motherwell, and we were 1-0 down. And in a season of pretty bad performances, was probably the worst performance of the season, to the point you're thinking Rodgers has lost the dressing room here. So I put that in because I thought by tonight we'd be talking about a manager that most of the fan base, if he wasn't in a Rodgers sack, certainly most of the fan base would have wanted him sacked, I think, after that. But obviously turned it around in the second half and won that game, and then won 7-1 last night. So it's the pressure has came off a little bit, albeit I think one bad result and it's straight back on again. So it's been kind of weird season for Celtic. So obviously won the treble last season, and then Ange left, and then Rodgers came in, and I think obviously fans weren't too happy with that because of the way he left the last time. But I think most of us thought, like, still got a good squad of players. Again, just won a treble, and probably still thought, or most people still thought Rodgers was a good coach and a good manager, and I thought he done well with Leicester up until that kind of last season, and was still probably a top manager, certainly in like Scottish terms anyway. But it's it's been since the start of the season, the performances you could see straight away that have been really, really boring. Really, just the system hasn't clicked. And it was only really like we started the season sort of winning games and but really just scraping them. And then because Rangers had a bad start under Michael Beale's, sort of found ourselves in an 8-point lead. So kind of got away with it at the start. But then when we lost our first game, I think people had seen that coming for a while. You could tell like the team wasn't playing well. And then it's just got even worse kind of since then in terms of the results. We've since kind of thrown away an 8-point lead, and obviously now Rangers are top of the league and there's a title race on, but I say a title race on, but the momentum seems to be very much for you guys. And so, I mean, you kind of hope that, well, as a Celtic fan, that the kind of the result last night, and I was at the game, and it was certainly probably the most fluid we'd been in a while anyway, under Rodgers in terms of the kind of performance, and then obviously like creating chances and scoring goals and stuff. But I think like got Tynecastle on Sunday, and I think one more bad result, and I think the pressure is seriously on Rodgers, and there's a lot of things pointing to the fact that this could have been a bit of a failure of an appointment, and might even end up being the case study on a manager not going back second time around, because it seems like he's not been able to have the impact that he had the first time, or even that he had at Leicester when he first went in, or even at Liverpool, you know, when he had a good season or two there. It's not worked. The style of football's been bad. Dropped a lot of points, and sort of got ourselves into a situation where there's really a real possibility that actually won't win anything this year. You know, and I think that would be obviously off the back of a team that's won the treble in an 8-point lead to then not win anything. I think would be a massive blow to his reputation, and that's the way that it seems to be going. Because like I said, I think I've seen one of you guys before the podcast started. Rangers, I seen them having two kind of tests like in the last week. One was Hearts, who were in form, and that was 5-0. And then obviously a hard game away to Kilmarnock last night. So it seems like all the momentum's with you guys, and even though we've had some bad transfer windows and not backed him and things like that, he's got to carry the can, I think, for a season like that, you know, getting from a position 8 points ahead to where we are now, where it seems like, you know, we're one bad result away from a crisis, you know, and pressure on his job and possibly winning nothing. So it's, yeah, I think it's, like I say, I've said this topic thinking that I was going to be talking about is Rodgers going to be sacked. I think he's probably kept those wolves for the door now, and you hope that as a Celtic fan that the last performance has kind of sparked a turnaround in some way. But yeah, just would be keen to understand what you guys think. And you are all Rangers fans. Did you expect when you sacked Michael Beale and were 8 points behind to be in a top of the league in February, or are you guys surprised by how it's went for Rodgers, and what are you guys thinking about the title race, I guess? Do you think it's in the bag? Do you guys think you're in the ascendancy and the gap's only going to widen, or do you guys still think that there's still a lot of football left to play?
I think I can see why Celtic fans are obviously up in arms, because I think the 8-point gap that you had is obviously been reduced to, you know, we are 2 points in front now, so it's a big point swing. If the shoes on the left foot and that happened to us, you know, I wouldn't be happy. It happened to us a good few years back now with McCoist. Obviously, we were going through a tough time at that point, but I did not expect us to be enough. I wanted Michael Beale out the door after the Celtic game at Ibrox when he beat us 1-0. You could see that he didn't have it. It took a wee bit longer, obviously. By that point, I thought the league was done. After the Aberdeen game, 3-1 Ibrox, the league was done. And we just kind of had to get somebody on the steady the ship and then go again next season, simply because the players that Beale signed were duds and he wasn't getting the best out of them. Walking Clement, he's seemed to have got a chin out the boys, all but Sam Lammers and Jose Cifuentes, who, by the way, Beale said that they were the best players they wanted to come. But anyway, I think I didn't expect it. I don't think. Listen, Celtic are still a good team, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that the league's in the bag in any way, shape, or form, because I know how comments can come back and bite you. And I think for me, personally, it takes my brother all the time. It's just one game at a time, as cliche as that sounds. Just to keep your feet in the ground, man. Because, like you say, you said you sit at one bad result away for Brendan Rodgers getting sacked or whatever, you know what I mean? But we've got ourselves in such a good position at the moment that we feel that if, it's in our hands now. Before it was in our hands, it's in our hands now, and it's still in your hands too. You still get points to claim, do you know what I mean? You're not depending on the results to go your way, but I think for us to get this league momentum is kind of worse, I suppose. I can see why you're saying that, but I just want to make sure just get it's one game at a time type thing. But I'm trying to be calm here and trying not to go into a mad rant. So I'm going to let Craig take over for this one. What's your opinions of that?
Well, firstly and foremost, I'll answer Gary's question about Brendan Rodgers because you went fucking all Rangers there, right?
Sorry.
Honestly is right. I'm not kidding you on there, James, by the way. But honestly, see, until Brendan Rodgers went to Celtic the first time, I really liked Brendan Rodgers and admired the guy. He used to go into Soccer Sunday, remember, and watch all the goals with Kamara and all that and talk pure football sense, right? They went to Liverpool, he lost the league by a slip that the Celtic fans keep reminding us about as if he was wearing the Rangers staff at the time, Gerrard slipping, right? and then he came up to Celtic. We came up to Celtic at that time. It was on the backlash of Ronnie Dyler defeating a semi-final of Scottish Cup, which was totally understandable because Dermot Desmond's like, this isn't happening, fuck it. I'm going to get Brendan Rodgers. And Brendan Rodgers, to me, I'll say was on the cusp of being an elite manager. What I've seen for Brendan Rodgers this season is uncharacteristic for the outside looking in, right? And I'm not talking about the whole good girl pish, right? See that? That's a lot of garbage. See the Rangers fans that are jumping on that? Get a life, man. Do you know what I mean? I say good girl to my daughter. I say good girl to lasses I work with. It's a generational thing. Get that to bed, right? But there's an uncharacteristic kind of side to Brendan Rodgers I've seen in press conferences recently that I'm like, that's not Brendan Rodgers. I do think he's been let down a lot by his players. I think he's found that the squad he's inherited isn't as good as the one he inherited the first time. I think some of the ones he's brought in have been a big disappointment. His summer transfer window was £20 million better spent elsewhere, definitely. And I've got my best pal's a Celtic fan. He tells me every week that's the case. I sent you guys in the group chat the day I think it was 6 years ago, the Rangers lineup when Brendan Rodgers last played Rangers, and it had some frightening players in our team. So I wouldn't like to say that he was coming up here to expect this will win another treble kind of thing. He's no that daft. He's no that bad a guy, but I do think he's been surprised. I do think players have let him down. For the outside looking in, I would suggest that the board have let him down.
Badly.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the players he wanted he couldn't get, and maybe he's just said, I'm not buying in players for the sake of it. But then that's what happened in the summer. The league's not over. I cringed last week at Ibrox. We pumped Hearts, right? We absolutely wiped the floor with Hearts. But when we started singing, "Den Celtic, we're going to win the league," I was like, oh no. Going to calm down. Just going to calm down for another couple of weeks until we'll start singing that. So I hate that crap because I've been here too long. I'm 46 going on 86, you know what I mean? I've been there and had that mud splattered in my face. Brendan Rodgers is a top level manager. for me. He's a top level manager. He's box office. When he came back up to Parkhead, I was as surprised as I was on awe. Do you know what I mean? But I do think he's found it difficult, and I do think it's not just him. However, for what Gary said there, from a Celtic point of view, if you're coming off the back of Ange ball and you're getting that, it's no good. It's no good. I hope it's not going to be good going forward, but we shall see. We shall see.
Right, so Colin, what do you think then?
I don't know how much I agree about him being like top level manager, because like he obviously done really well at Liverpool, but if you think of the players he had back then, Gerrard will maybe come towards the end of his career, but am I right in saying he had Suarez in his team?
Nah, it's Suarez.
And Daniel, like peak Daniel Sturridge when he was like unplayable. Like I think his career could have went a different trajectory. Like look how much Klopp's loved by Liverpool for winning the league. Like see if Rodgers had won the league at Liverpool, like he probably would have stayed there either long term or even got I don't know if there is a really higher move in England, but he could have got that.
Klopp had Suarez and Klopp had Gerrard, I know. Took him a couple of years to
get a title. Dalglish and stuff. So I think,
but as you were saying, like Rodgers didn't face a decent Rodgers didn't really face any competition the first time round, as we were discussing in terms of the teams he was playing against. Leicester obviously won the league with Ranieri. Rodgers done well with them, but obviously struggled towards the end, and then he's kind of flopped this time round. So I think Liverpool was maybe his peak, because like I don't know if, not to take his achievements away from him, but like how would he have done against like a much stronger Rangers team, which is maybe what you're seeing now. But I was worried for the Kilmarnock game, and they pulled that off. I've still got my worries, because it seems like no matter how bad form Celtic are, we've just got a kind of monkey on our backs with the whole thing. And I think we really need to win the next game at Ibrox, because I don't know, even when Ange was there, the games were close, like score-wise, maybe not always performance-wise. It was like 2-1, 3-2, 2-2. The games themselves didn't have a massive gulf, but we're just kind of
listen.
Scoreline
sorry
wise,
to cut you off there, Colin, but from my point of view, they did.
Scoreline
Ange's
wise,
first game at Ibrox. Ange's first game at Ibrox, right? We won 1-0. Hollander scored a goal. Gerrard's last Old Firm game, right? And that was smashing. We should never have won that game. Do you know what I mean? Celtic missed sitters galore that day. Robbie McCrory made a couple of wonder saves for his first appearance for Rangers. Since that, after that, we still had a fear factor going to Parkhead. We still had a fear factor at Ibrox. We still didn't get out of our own. Like we were always focused on Celtic, so Celtic still had the Midas touch against us. The Japanese boys were always good, and O'Reilly, Christ, Abada, Jesus, that's another podcast waiting to happen, Abada, right? But he's a great player. I would have him at Ibrox, by the way. But it's just you're right in what you say as well, Colin. But see the new, maybe this is Rodgers getting a Christ. This is a team.
I just came away from a lot of those Old Firm games frustrated, because it never felt like Celtic were particularly good. If you look at the 1-0 game at Ibrox earlier this season, like we were awful, but Celtic were equally as awful, and it was a wonder goal. And it's these really tight margins, and I'm hoping some of the players we've got now, like Diomande, Cortez, dare I say Dessers, if he can get his boots on against Celtic, can have those wee moments of class to maybe start sneaking it the way they do.
Listen, again, I can give you 10 games from 1989 to 1999 where we were fucking awful and we won against Celtic. Do you know what I mean? There's a mentality thing to be had about it. But you can go and play the best football of your career against a team, and you just... Graham Souness said it best, right? He played in a Liverpool team that were winning European Cups, but he said every time we went to Nottingham Forest, we'd play the game of our life and we'd always lose 1-0. They had one chance to score it. So it matters. Nobody cares about how well you played. Nobody cares about corners, stats, shots on target, best player. It's the goal that counts, and it's the goal that gets written down. It's the goal you remember. So there's a mentality thing there as well, where you can. Walter Smith was great at it. Used to rock up to the Parkhead with half a team and Philip Sabo, Jesus Christ, and win 1-0. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of the things.
The next Old Firm at Ibrox is so important though, just because even under Clement, we were rubbish at Parkhead, and they really do need to get, as you say, that mentality right.
I think I get.
Gary, she's a Celtic fan, right?
Yeah.
But everything you just said there, how do you feel right now about Brendan? How do you feel?
Well,
now, watching Celtic?
At half time on Sunday, I was really thinking like that the whole thing's gone. But last night was better, and like I say, when Rodgers came in, I thought I didn't like the way he left the first time, but I did think we've got some good players. We've just won a treble, and he is a good coach. He improves players. Rodgers, all through his career, he's come in and he's managed to get an extra few percent out of some players. He did it with us the last time. So I thought it's unfortunate as him, but he's probably the best we could get now. And I still want to think that in a way, but I've been surprised this season. And I know what you guys are saying about it's a stronger Rangers team compared to the last time. There's no doubt about that. Yous were essentially you were finishing third and things like that. That first season it was there and things like that. But the reason that this season's not gone well for Celtic isn't because we've got beat off a stronger Rangers team. We've won those two games. It's actually the inability to put away the dross and break down teams that don't come and try and win. This could sound weird, I actually fancy my chances more against yous than I do. See me go play Kilmarnock, and I know they're going to just like Kilmarnock Rugby Park. I worry about that because I think that's exactly the type of game we'll drop points in. Whereas a team that actually comes at us a little bit more, you actually think like we might actually do a bit better. There's a bit more space and things like that. But I don't know. I don't think I wouldn't sack him. My Twitter says otherwise. I think a few weeks ago I put up.
I wouldn't sack him. My Twitter says otherwise.
Because the alternative is probably like John Kennedy interim at the end of the season. That's just not good. I still think probably Rodgers at this point is the guy who is going to have that. There's no one else I don't think that we could realistically get between now and the end of the season that can turn it round for where it is now. But it's no gone well. The performances, the football's not been good to watch. And it's been surprising because, let's say, all the way through, don't get me wrong, there's been times when, especially in Rodgers' second and third season the last time, football was starting to go a bit side to side and stuff like that. But I mean, typically you think of Rodgers as like an attacking manager, loads of goals in the team, a good coach that improves players and stuff. And you've not really seen that. Most of it, you think Kyogo scored 30 odd goals last season, and he's barely gets a touch. Now he's lost his place in the team by all accounts, and based on last night, he got dropped, and the new boy Ida scored, and nearly all the players that were so good last season have went backwards, and it's odd to see because you just didn't think, you just assume that Rodgers, let's say, I don't think he's an elite manager, but I think certainly like out of British managers over the last 10 years, he's one of the best ones in my opinion. I think actually the job he did at Liverpool gets underrated, and I actually think the job he did at Leicester's underrated. I mean, 2 5th place finishes in an FA Cup for Leicester. All right, they had a freak season a few years ago, but that's like you can't count that like that as a 1 in a million type thing. For Leicester, I think he did pretty well. So I do still think he's a good coach. So I'm inclined to stick with him, but the atmosphere's not been good. I think there's a lot of fans that probably the knife's out to begin with when he came in, and it's just no got going. We've not managed to get momentum. We struggling to string any results together. We won 7-1 last night. It wouldn't surprise me if we get beat the weekend, just the way that we've been Jekyll and Hyde. He's really struggled to get the best out of the good players that we have, which is unusual for Rodgers. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he left at the end of the season, kind of whether he turns it around or not. I think that the board have badly let him down. All of our signings, arguably all of our signings in the summer, have been complete failures. Every single one of them. Which is just unacceptable, and that's not his fault. But But you know,
that's because he signed them.
well, you say he
There's
signed
that to look at.
Did he sign them? I mean, there was.
Did he?
Well, I don't know.
Did they know? I don't know.
Does a
20
manager?
million quid.
Yeah. Does a manager sign players now? Is that a recruitment department? Is it we're not willing to spend the money to get good players in? It's we sold some of our best players, and it just seems like we've replaced them with a lot of projects. And I don't honestly believe, and based on what Rodgers said in interviews, he wants quality. He wants older players that are no 20-year-old guys for the South Korean league that are look as if they've got a bit of potential. And that's nobody can tell me that's what Rodgers wants. It's certainly not. Signing players is fine, but signing 9 of them or whatever it was is. That's not a strategy. That's not a club that wants to really win the league and make sure they progress in Europe. I mean that's and then no one be laughing, to be fair. So I do sympathise.
No, just what you said.
Yeah.
It's just when you said you signed 9 South Koreans. It's just what you said it, man.
9 projects, but it's yeah. I mean, I think we're in February. I think we've got to get into March. So I think we've got to stick with Rodgers now. But the signs aren't good. I'm not confident for this point. It's only a 2-point gap, but it feels like you guys are going that way, and we could be going that way. Although the last kind of game and a half has maybe suggested that there's maybe fighting as yet, but we'll see.
Okay, I'm conscious of time here. So
you said like you're near the end of a lesson and you've still got a few tasks to cover.
No, it was just one preliminary task. So I'm going to, because you talk about Celtic managers, I thought I would do something a wee bit different here. So let me see if technology wants to work this time.
Hello, it's PK, the missing man. Just a wee word of warning if you're listening on Spotify. James is just about to play a wee visual riddle with Celtic managers. If you want the best experience, why not hop over to YouTube and watch it there, because it's just going to be the next few minutes of 4 Scottish guys shouting out random Celtic legends. And if you're already on YouTube, thanks for watching and please subscribe.
Can't read that, James. You're going to have to break this down for me.
Leicester Laurels lifted Celtic to heights of northern roots. I am melodic footballer, Liverpool's lower with a brief Celtic voyage.
So these are all cryptic clues to Celtic managers.
Okay.
Oh, well, Martin O'Neill is one of them. I'm a former Fox, took the helm before the King's Power took me. Martin O'Neill.
Oh, I was going to say the first one's Martin O'Neill, isn't it?
So
I thought that was Brendan Rodgers, Leicester and Ireland.
So that was Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful human being.
Is that Kenny Doug? No.
Right, so go with the first one. Leicester Laurels gifted Celtics to heights, northern roots. Who's that?
It could be O'Neill or no.
Leicester,
O'Neill. It could be Rodgers or
Rodgers.
That one's Rodgers.
O'Neill.
Yeah, O'Neill.
There you are. I'm a melodic footballer, Liverpool's lower with a brief Celtic voyage.
Surely.
John Barnes.
Rapping.
John Barnes.
John Barnes.
Oh, yeah. All right, so it doesn't have to be a Leicester thing, right? Cool.
No. So I broke Rangers Hold.
Took the helm before the King's Power. All right, I broke Rangers Hold.
Is it Vengala? Is that a guy's name?
No, that we won Jansen.
He never won it. He won one Old Firm game.
He stopped with 10 in a row, didn't he?
Aye, stopped 10 in a row, aye.
He did.
I have Italian roots, nice Celts in Fleeting Pursuit.
Fleeting Pursuit, Italian root.
Italian roots.
Reached Celts.
Who's Carey?
Was it Louis McCarry? Did he get Italian roots?
Good shout. Brian O'Neill, last minute, I was there, hated it.
Is that Douglas?
Cop
Douglas must be.
Douglas. Agility.
Maybe he's aye, maybe he's not.
Celtic through and through. Nice yield chat for true. Homegrown hero.
John Kennedy.
Billy McNeil.
McNeil, aye.
Are you sure?
Oh, no, because the next one's Billy McNeil. Celtic through managerial chat. Oh, Tommy Burns.
Oh, Burns, of course. God, that's terrible.
Twisting
Come on,
turns.
Gary.
Mm.
God rest him.
The Viking
Next
roar.
one is Billy McNeil.
Neil, Ronnie.
Oh, Ronnie.
Oh, yeah.
Phone dialer. Italian experience. Celtic helm in
Former
pursuit
gunner.
of renaissance.
What's his name?
Italian experience.
Oh, wait, Liam Brady. Liam
Oh,
Brady.
yeah, that's right. Aye.
There we go.
He's a great manager for Rangers, so he was.
I should have done that. No, quite different. Did you make up all that?
He bought
Aye,
Stuart
aye.
Slater. He's a great manager.
So I done one for Paul as well, but because of time, I'll leave that one and we'll do it another time. Because Paul's topic was the hard nine of football. Or his words, I wouldn't want to say his word was, but the hard nine of football.
Do you know I googled the hard men of football and Harry Kane came up on the list? I don't know why.
Right, okay.
Speech impediments of football. Harry Kane.
So last topic of the night, Colin, you wanted to talk about are managers getting enough time? So what are your thoughts on managers getting enough time then?
Dovetails quite nicely with Gary's discussion on Brendan Rodgers as well.
Indeed.
No, I was listening. I don't know if any of you guys listened to Stick to Football, the podcast with like Neville Carragher and Roy Keane.
I've seen
Aye,
the
sometimes aye.
So
I don't like
they had.
Neville. Don't like Roy Keane.
I know where you're going with this, and I like it. Keep talking about that.
You don't like Neville or Roy Keane because they're Man United, right?
That's right.
I actually really like Gary Neville. I think I like him. Even his appearance on Dragon's Den this year.
He's on Dragon's Den.
What's that,
Is he an
Gary?
investor?
He's on Dragon's Den again.
He's like a guest dragon. He comes on like a few times during the season. He's been on. I think he's on this week actually. He's really good.
I'll need to stop watching that then.
And sorry, what was I talking about? Yeah, so they had Wayne Rooney on. They had an hour-long interview with Wayne Rooney, and do you know how we were talking earlier about how the kind of free foreigners rule and how everyone longs for the 90s and the 2000s? It just goes to show that two of the most popular football podcasts are Stick to Football, and I watched the one with Lineker, Richards, and Shearer, and Alan Shearer's absolutely hilarious. By the way, the rest is football. I listen to it twice a week. It's brilliant. But anyway, they had Wayne Rooney on, and he was talking about his time in Birmingham, how he might becoming a boxer, all that kind of stuff. But it just got me thinking, like, there's like three England legends in Lampard, Gerrard, and Rooney whose reputations are all a bit in tatters. Like Gerrard, obviously, did what he did at Rangers, went to Villa, started well, wasn't doing too well, got let go. So there's a question: is how would Gerrard have done if he'd had longer? Would he have kind of fought it back? He also had a good character. He's now disappeared into the back end of nowhere with no return in sight. Lampard's an interesting one. He was like very close to getting the Rangers job by all accounts. There was the whole thing with Graham Souness. Was really impressed with him. I wasn't totally against Lampard. We discussed this in a previous one. He did a really good job at Chelsea the first time round with the transfer ban.
Aye,
And
then they gave him money.
Yeah, but if you look at him, what he did with that team, bringing through like Reece James, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, have all went on to have good careers. There's also got a wee bit about him. Everton was a bit of a struggle. Did well at Derby. Rooney also managed Derby. Rooney's, I don't know what happened at Birmingham, but I don't think they particularly wanted to let. Was it John Eustace? Was the previous manager? I don't think they particularly wanted to let, or the fans seemed to like him. So it's an interesting one what happened with Rooney there, but he seems to want to get back into management. I think out of the three of them, Lampard's maybe get the best chance of having a career, but it's a wee bit. My topic's a wee bit about the kind of legacy football managers, like Thierry Henry failed as a manager as well. There's a lot of examples, but also, are these people getting enough time? And do you think people like Gerrard, Lampard, Rooney will have a kind of renaissance? Well, Roy Keane, he always talks about it. Will he ever get back into management? So just be interested to hear what you think of our kind of generation of legends. And what the future would hold for them and whether they were a bit kind of undone. So there's a few things, but I think it makes for a good discussion. So whoever wants to jump in.
I think in general, our managers getting enough time. I think obviously not. Like, I mean, it is a bit ridiculous these days. Like how quickly some managers get sacked. Having said that, when you're talking about some of these ex-players and stuff, at the same time, you've got to see that it's going somewhere as well. Like, if you think back to, like, I was too young, obviously, to remember, but Alex Ferguson at Man United and stuff was obviously on the verge of the sack at one point and stuff, and they kind of stuck with him. I think it was actually one result that kind of saved his skin, but I think they obviously stuck.
Pick up replay, that's right.
Yeah, a few years where he didn't win anything, and you've seen how that turned out. But even in recent years, I think like Klopp at Liverpool took a while to build a team that was capable of sort of challenging for trophies all the time, and even Arteta at Arsenal, I think, like took a while to, kept talking about the project and stuff. So I think there is examples of where now if there's a kind of idea how you want to build a team, you can see that it's better if you stick with it. And I think maybe people are starting to realise that now, because for a few years it just meant, the slightest bad run of results, managers are getting sacked. But the difference is, I think with like Arteta and Klopp and things like that, you could sort of see a style of play, you could see what they're trying to do. A lot of these players you're talking about, like Henry and Rooney at Birmingham and Lampard at Everton, and maybe towards the end of his time at Chelsea, although I agree with you, I think he actually did an underrated job the first season in hard circumstances. It kind of got to the point where it wasn't, you couldn't see where this was going long term other than down the way. You didn't see that they were really, it wasn't like they were trying to put a team together and they were getting better, but it wasn't just clicking yet. But you could see what they were trying to do, and it was sort of going down the way fast, I think, in a lot of these cases. And I think a lot of these players just don't really have the makings of great managers, if I'm honest. Arteta's a former player, and he's managed to do it with Arsenal and build a pretty good team now that's probably won't win the league, but certainly is kind of up and challenging in the kind of top three and stuff, which it took him a while to get a squad like that and a way of playing that done it. So I think there's, obviously managers don't get enough time these days. It's modern football, but some of these ex-players that are sort of saying that, I don't think if you ask any Birmingham supporter, I don't think there'd be very many of them that would have been up for giving Rooney any more time. So I don't really buy that, if I'm honest.
I know we don't have the kind of crystal ball, but do you think, see if Gerrard had stayed at Rangers and maybe won back-to-back or 3 leagues, do you think he would be in the Liverpool conversation now? Do you think I reckon he probably regrets going to Villa when he did, or going to Villa at all. What do you guys think? Do you think he would be in the Liverpool conversation now if he'd had prolonged success at Rangers over a period of time?
100%, because he'd be a winning manager with a proven track record of winning. So he would have been in the conversation, 100%.
Yeah.
But he's no, and he wasn't.
Do you think he's kicking himself out in Saudi, deep down?
Well, of course he is. Football-wise, aye. Money-wise, no. But for his own career, if he comes back to Britain, because he's not coming back to Liverpool, that's a certainty. If he comes back to Britain to manage a football team, he might not even have the pick of the lower tier Premiership. He might need to go back to the Championship. The thing with Birmingham, which was disgusting, by the way, John Eustace had Birmingham steady in the playoff places, doing a great job, and the Birmingham hierarchy just decided they wanted a household name as a manager. Didn't matter about his record, didn't matter about what John Eustace was doing, they made it known to John Eustace, you're getting the pump and we're going to get Wayne Rooney. So that was disgusting. And I was actually, as much as I was disappointed for Wayne Rooney, because I like Wayne Rooney, I think he's brand new, but I was delighted that it failed, because it showed that people that are throwing about money like Monopoly just will not always win. Oh, we'll get Wayne Rooney. Why? Because he's a good manager? No, because he's Wayne Rooney. But John Eustace is doing this. Doesn't matter, we'll get Wayne Rooney. So that was garbage. So I'm glad it failed. I hope Wayne Rooney gets back into management. Do you know what I mean? Really do.
Is Michael? We had the guy from the Middlesbrough fan on recently. Is Michael Carrick maybe an exception to the rule? Do you think he seems to be quite highly regarded at Middlesbrough? He could maybe be one that could buck the trend a wee bit.
Again, though, he's obviously down. I think there's a difference between Carrick and some of these other.
Yeah,
other
Carrick's still a big name, but he's maybe done it right by starting lower down,
Yeah,
building
definitely.
his way up.
Yeah, I don't think he deserved time for time's sake, to be honest. And I think some of these ones probably. I think he could have
I
given
listen to
another.
TalkSport quite a lot, Colin. This is what I thought you were going to talk about, right? There was a thing on TalkSport the other day where UEFA done an off-the-cuff, underhand survey about managers being only allowed to be sacked and hired in the transfer window, right? So it was just what do you think about that kind of thing? And
not
an
awful.
unnamed manager came forward and said, I think that's the way to go, because why should players blah 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 if managers can't? So I agree, right? There's managers day need time, 100%, but it depends what league you're playing in, what team you're managing. See, in Scotland, we've got that smaller league. You're either up there or you're down there, so it's easy to sack. If you're in a bigger giant league, then teams like Sunderland and remember Watford. Watford have had about 3 million managers in the last 3 years. Do you know what I mean? You're like, who are you? You're Watford. You calm down. Do you know what I mean? It's mental, man. But if that was to be implemented, where managers could only be hired and fired in a transfer window, we would have been stuck with Michael Beale until Hogmanay. That would have ruined any chance of us having a league challenge. Then Sunderland would have been stuck with Michael Beale until the end of the season. They knew, ruining any chance they had at anything as well. So that has to be just booted so far out of touch, it's not real.
Because of
So,
Michael Beale.
Did you hear about Michael Beale and his secret Twitter account?
I don't. But listen, I think there's a lot of that's just a lot of fabrication. You can be a narcissist, but you just can't be that stupid. You can't have that there. Do you know, no way he could have done that, man. I hate him for what he done to Rangers, right? But I just, on a human level, I really hope that had nothing to do with him and somebody's fabricated it and just went with it and try to muddy his name or something, because that guy needs to step away from football for about 3 years and then come back and see if he's going to get a coaching job with under 13s. Do you know what I mean? Because he's ruined his reputation.
James,
for somebody that was the ethos behind Rangers. You know what I mean?
James, we kind of got back in touch after this point, but obviously Van Bronckhorst got Rangers to Seville and then won the Scottish Cup as well. You and Craig as well, what were your thoughts on Gio going? Do you think Gio deserved more time based on his accomplishments?
Yes. James, you go for it, but
getting Rangers to a European final wasn't easy, right? Especially the team he had. There's something special about Gio was always kind of labelled as a cup manager. He won cups in Holland and all that sort of stuff. And you see, he did the same with Rangers. He won the Scottish Cup, and we were a penalty kick away from the Europa League. You know, obviously when Gio was the manager, that's when Ange Postecoglou was the manager, and we were, I think, by February, I remember that game very well. It was a night game against Celtic. It was a Tuesday or a Wednesday night or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we were down 3-0 in about half an hour.
Right. What a night.
And that be quiet, you. And that was basically the shift in momentum. And I think at that point, Gio had lost the fans. And I don't think it was the board's fault. I think that if the board would have probably kept Gio in the job, but as Craig said, the fans are so fickle and it's so knee jerk. It's unreal here. And the moment we see a momentum starting to shift, then the pressure piles on the board. And I think there's no coincidence either, by the way, I'll add this in, there's no coincidence either the fact that Michael Beale was singing to be allowed in that day against Aberdeen. He'd obviously had a secret meeting with Rangers. I don't care what anybody says.
Wait, I tell you. Keep talking.
And Gia was and Rangers won that game. And I think Tav missed the penalty as well. And then the rating was already on the wall though at that point for Gio, unfortunately. To answer the question, do I think he deserved more time? Aye, I do. But it's Celtic Rangers here, do you know what I mean? And Brendan Rodgers is feeling exactly the same kind of momentum shifting now, I think.
He's still loved though for his time as a player and what he did as a manager. So he's still
absolutely. He got us to European Cup finals. You know what I mean? So like he was so unlucky. And if he won that, he would have been immortal.
It wasn't his fault. It was just his personality.
It's not a bit Di Matteo was with Chelsea.
That's right.
It wasn't his
European Cup. I'm leaving phone them since.
It was his fault.
No, it wasn't his fault. Like, and there's always a kind of language barrier as well. But like Clement kind of grabs you in those news conferences, doesn't he? And he really gets you listening. Beale kind of did that in a different way that didn't always work. But Gerrard had that charisma. I think Gerrard and Clement had that kind of charisma with the interviews, and they just kind of really back the team and talk a lot of sense. Van Bronckhorst was very kind of quiet and reserved, and that was something some fans maybe wrongly held against him a wee bit.
I said it could have been deserved some time, 100%. No, that was kind of blasé there. But if you sit back, you think about it, he blew a 7-point lead as well. Can't forget that. By the way, it got us a European Cup final, smashing, love it. Won as a Scottish Cup, smashing, love it. He blew a 7-point lead against Celtic. Like you, James, I'm a season ticket holder. I sat there and I watched the draws with Kilmarnock and all that kind of stuff. His press conferences did start to grate me because he always been a legend, always been a hero, blah 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 blah. But it was quite derogatory. It was quite dour, quite stuff like that. And in the wider scale of things, that's what I was going to tell you. Right, I was sitting there that day, as always, in my seat, and there's a guy sitting next to me. He's quite prominent in everything to do with Rangers and other factions, right? I'll not say his name over there. And he sat down 5-3 and says, Michael Beale's up there. I went, up where? He's like, director's box. What are you talking about? Michael Beale used to be our coach. He went, he's up there, director's box. He was in the Loudon. Was it Aberdeen we were playing, wasn't it? I'm sure it was Aberdeen. I was like, what's he doing in there? Don't know, just appeared. Something weird about that. That whole game, that Aberdeen game, Gio was going for game to game basis at that time. It was another bad result, sacked. And I was like, well, if a former coach of yours is sitting in the Loudon and then being invited by the directors, because he was invited by the directors into the director box, well, still, Gio was in a job and all that. I was like, this isn't right, man. It's no good. And within a fortnight, he was a manager. That just stunk for high heaven. But board, see your board, they don't get pulled up for that. They really don't. And they fucking should, by the way. That was underhand. That's why I've got a wee bit of rose-tinted glasses with Gio. I think it was done dirty. I don't think he was given the money at the time when he had money, and it was done dirty with that shite. He had to go and manage a team where a former coach was sitting at the guest of the directors and all that kind of stuff. And then you weigh it up with the fact that he did blow a lead against Celtic. So
can I ask
you answer your question, Colin, did I?
I think so, yeah.
So just following on for that, can I just ask, so do you think it's better or worse for Celtic and Rangers that a manager is judged on beating either Celtic or Rangers above progressing in Europe and making a dent in, say, the Europa League or the Champions League? Or building a team that's able to compete at that level? Is actually that mindset sort of holding? Because what if you had stuck with Van Bronckhorst? Do you think he would be a better team for it now, or
Probably no, mate. See, Europe baffles me. It does. And I suppose I can say that because we're doing well in it now, right? We have done since Gerrard came back, and Gerrard came in, and we've got a good credibility in Europe. So I suppose I can throw that away as a, haha, we're no bad. But Europe has never interested me, I swear to God. Even up to the semi-final, when we got to the final a couple of years ago, James is going to hate this. I didn't give a fuck about Europe. It was a distraction. It was brilliant to see us doing well in it. However, bread and butter, mate. Listen, the league is bread and butter. When you start winning the league, like every year, like we used to, and like Celtic have been, then I start broadening your horizons, start thinking about Europe. But you don't get to Europe unless you win your league. And we've not done that consistently for well over a decade. And it's great that we're doing the European stuff and the European runs and all that kind of stuff. And I know how much it must hurt. Well, I know how much it hurts my pals watching us doing it in Europe because Celtic have been pretty poor. But I remember back not too long ago when Michael Martin O'Neill was just shy of beating Juventus and Turin, but they bet Ajax and they were doing well in Europe, and then they got to the UEFA Cup final as well. But it didn't bother me because the league was still the thing. So, a manager will always be judged on the bread and butter. For me, Europe is something you can criticise when you're actively getting there year after year. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I've made any sense here.
No, I get it, man.
I enjoy the European run, I must admit. Particularly that camera they used to have in the Europa League games, the one right along the club deck. That's like the football equivalent of when you're cutting like wrapping paper and the scissors.
You're right, mate. I love it. I love it. I totally love it. But I want the SPL trophy at the end of every season.
Both would be nice.
And then I can enjoy that.
So we're kind of veering off into another topic here. I think it would be an interesting topic for another podcast. But like, I think that's like, because I sometimes look at like teams like Ajax who every so often will have a team that will get to the semi-finals of the Champions League and stuff, but they have a fan base and a kind of acceptance that they might not win the league every year to build those teams and stuff, whereas it just seems like Celtic and Rangers fans just wouldn't accept that way of doing things, even if it meant like every few years you'd have a team that maybe could go a bit further than you otherwise would. But yeah, no, it's interesting.
But do Ajax not expect to win the league every year? Do they know?
I don't know though.
Ajax, if I'm an Ajax fan, I expect to win the Dutch league every year.
I know they don't.
They don't.
But they maybe expect to. They expect to be challenging, but Ajax don't win it every year, and I think there's more of a culture accepting that. If they're building a team, they'll bring through young players. They'll sell for big money. They'll use that money to get other players, and there's maybe acceptance that they'll know this kind of instant success and sacking managers and kind of throwing the whole thing out. Like just when you come second, I don't think is the same as it is. Because I mean, like Celtic Rangers, if you're second, you might as well be like an 8th or something. It doesn't matter.
Two horse race, I get you.
Like, so you know, I just think, like, yeah, I wonder is that the right sort of mindset to have? Like, would be better off. But yeah, I get what you're saying. No, like the league is like, I'm the same. Like if Celtic don't win a league this year, I'll be Rodgers out, like again, like bowled out, all the rest of it. Like, aye, no, it's an interesting one. Maybe a topic for another time.
No, you're not. You're talking totally right. But that's what I'm trying to say. I would argue that Celtic fans were more conscious and more mindful of European disappointment when they were going for 9 in a row, because the league wasn't a fucking problem. You know what I mean? The league was getting won.
Yeah.
So what can we worry about now? Europe's a bit pish in it. It is, you're right. Aye, it's not great. But do you know what I mean? So the league wasn't a worry. It's just, you make great points, mate. You're totally right. Rangers and Celtic are just this anomaly a European football that's second is relegation. Do you know what I mean? But then if you start to look at it a wee bit more further objectively, then Dutch, how many of them are going to win the league? 3 of them.
Nah.
PSV, Feyenoord, Ajax,
Sam
England.
Lammers is going to win it for Utrecht.
Oh, by the way, he's on fire. I hope he is on fire, so we just to come back this season.
Yeah, we'll get a good transfer fee from him then if he's doing well.
It takes
Just not
3
got it.
cola bottles for that guy, man. I swear to God.
He's just not got it for it. But just to go back to, listen, Clermont to be under fire at some point, do you know what I mean? Because he has to beat Celtic. That's something he's only had one game against them, to be fair. But you're always judged against your arch rivals. So at some stage he's got to beat Celtic. So Michael Beale beat Celtic, but he was judged because it was a meaningful game.
Yeah.
So I mean, so yes, he beat Celtic.
There was some do it, but
The last time Rangers beat Celtic in a meaningful game was Giovanni Van Bronckhorst semi-final.
Aye. Yeah. It's going to be the Celtic Rangers games that decide the title this year, I think. Well, unless we drop more points, but
Right, okay. So we've got a wee challenge for Colin.
What?
Yeah, because you were talking about managers, so now it's kind of based on the tenable one for last week. So I've tried to mix up a wee bit. So I want you to try and find the last 10 English Premier League managers that were sacked. But you can only have 10 guesses.
Okay.
So you don't like it, do you?
Oh. I'm just
Scotland,
I'm all about everybody getting involved. It's just about
I've just forgotten every single manager that ever existed.
You were laughing at me last week.
I come back and see a Google search in your specs.
Right, give me a second to collect myself then. Right.
Oh, I can go around the table if you want, man. And they might give you inspiration.
Give me a second. I don't watch.
Does it have to be
EPL,
sacked?
man.
Does it have to be sacked? Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't sacked. He was mutually terminated.
mutually sacked up.
Right. Premier League.
He took no well. Premier League, mate. Are you listening to the question?
Yeah.
Was that why you were talking about?
Everton's in my head. But who's the Everton manager?
It's Dyche. Dyche is the manager.
Before him, that was maybe a way well
Lampard,
ago.
wasn't it?
You go with Lampard?
Before him. He won?
No, because that was quite a while ago.
Lampard was number 11 on the list, so he doesn't make the top 10.
Okay. Okay, Man City haven't changed manager, neither have Liverpool. Ten Hag's been there a while. Newcastle for the manager for a while. Bournemouth, Scott Parker.
Oh, Forest. Colin Cooper.
Right, so he says Scott Parker. Scott Parker is not on the list, no. Steve Cooper. Say Craig. Colin Cooper.
Forest Cooper. Steve Cooper.
Forest Whitaker. Steve Cooper on the list, yes, he's there.
Oh, I've got one. Sheffield United. I forgot what the manager's called, but he gets that. I've honestly
the Hibs manager.
Heckenbottom. Yeah.
So he's number 2 on the list.
Heckenbottom. What about the Wolves manager before O'Neill?
Before Gary O'Neill.
Oh, he's the Spanish guy. Something. Can't say it, but
what was his name?
Lopa
or
something.
I'll give you that. Okay, his name is Julian Lopetegui. What his name is?
Not doing too bad here.
He's in Google. Look at him.
Oh, Spurs before Ange. Who was the Spurs manager
before Ange? Who was that?
Conte.
Yep,
Aye.
Conte's on the list. That's right. Yep.
Okay. Was Lampard wasn't on the list. Chelsea. Did O'Neill not get sacked by Bournemouth?
Not according to this.
No.
No.
Was he the Bournemouth manager? Did I make that up?
Gary O'Neill.
Yeah, I just made that
Dunno.
up. Who else? Brentford. They've had the same manager for a while.
Oh,
Fulham.
I kind of think David Moyes has been to West Ham for a million years.
I'm struggling to
Fulham,
think
I
of
don't
any.
even know who Fulham's manager is.
Aston Villa. Oh, maybe the Aston Villa manager, Dean Smith.
Yeah.
Not the
Nah.
last time.
Was Vieira before Hodgson at Crystal Palace? Was that?
Yep. Vieira. Yep. Vieira's on the list. Yep.
Oakland, Gary, that's brilliant. That's a great answer, that, by the way.
Who's the Fulham manager? Can you tell us the teams involved?
No.
Speed it up a bit.
I'll tell you. So Fulham's not on the list.
Fulham's not on the list.
Can I give you teams then? I'll give you teams.
Says the teams at least.
Chelsea, Leicester, Southampton, and Leeds.
Rodgers.
Yeah, Rodgers is on the list.
Chelsea. Who's the Chelsea manager?
Him that
Lampard
used
was
to
the
manage
caretaker.
Leicester.
It was before.
No, him that used to manage Brighton. Chelsea.
Oh, Potter.
Yep, Graham Potter.
Him.
Yep, he's on the list. Potter.
Hello, Potter.
different podcast. What other teams?
One you would relish.
Oh yes.
I said Southampton. So this is a bit of because obviously Southampton leads on in the Premiership.
Oh,
anymore,
Southampton was it the Dutch guy?
Come on.
What's his name again?
Hasenhüttl.
Yes.
Not one.
Okay. Southampton.
Somebody
Fire
sacked
over
up for
Rebo.
him.
Aribo, he should never have left. That's a different podcast, but never mind.
You've got to
Is
say
Hasenhüttl on it? Hasenhüttl for
Like I said,
Southampton.
no.
Leeds are on it twice.
Leeds. Oh, Bielsa.
Bielsa, aye.
Or did he quit?
Who came in after Bielsa?
Oh,
Allardyce.
One at a
Yeah,
time, please.
Allardyce.
There's a guy for Leipzig as well, wasn't there, that they got at Leeds? Jesse Marsh.
Yeah, Jesse March. Yep.
Allardyce?
No.
I said that.
But I don't know if he answered. Is there any more?
Southampton. Leeds on it twice, so you another Leeds one. He was sacked in May last year.
Leeds.
Oh, wee mad Davy for the Haw.
Yes, there he is.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'll give you the Southampton one. So Nathan Jones from Southampton.
He's a failure, wasn't he?
And I'll give you the last one since you've come on board of it. Javi Garcia. Leeds.
Forgot that. Didn't even register
Yeah,
that one.
He existed.
Right, okay, that was done no bad, Colin. But obviously,
It wasn't just me.
I know, but you struggled at start, so your pals helped you out there. I'll give you a B minus. Right, so anything left to say in the last two topics, guys? Have you covered everything?
Can we very quickly touch one answer, right? One answer for each one of these, because Paul's not here. Who's your hardest ever British player that you've seen in your life? One answer.
Harry Kane.
Colin.
No, not Harry Kane. Because my screen name is Jimmy Bullard, I can't forget that image of him looking up at Duncan Ferguson and smiling. Do you remember that? So I'll just put Duncan Ferguson because it's a funny image.
James.
I'm going to go with Vinnie Jones. I've seen umpteen clips, man. He's just, I can't stand him.
Brilliant, man.
I know one word of it on, but that's just me. Sorry.
I was going to say
Gary, who you think?
I was going to say Vinnie Jones, but has it got to be somebody different? So you said Duncan Ferguson, Colin.
Yeah.
Well, that whole Wimbledon team were kind of full. I had me. It was but I guess I'm probably a bit young to remember
The
them.
crazy gang.
Aye. Try to think like Hardman. It's got to be British.
Aye, British player.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think.
Lee Bowyer.
Yeah. Jones and Ferguson are the ones that jumped into my mind. I'm struggling to think anybody.
You can agree. You don't need to be different. You can agree.
I'll go with Vinnie Jones in. I think he's the obvious one.
Very original.
What about you, Craig?
I'm going to say Terry Hurlock.
No.
He was a nasty man. Thank
It's-
Christ he played with Rangers that season.
Yes.
One season.
Is Souness in that conversation for your point of view?
By the way, aye, totally.
Just remember that when he first came up to Rangers, I've seen the clip where he playing Hibs or something like that, and he's playing manager and at tackle.
Yeah, his
and,
first game.
Aye.
Not as good as the Stoya Bucharest one, but
aye.
Good tackle. Right, okay. We'll draw it to a close then. So, thanks very much, chaps, for coming on, especially yourself, Craig, for guesting on the show. Hope you enjoyed it.
pleasure.
Are you want to give the peeps a wee shout out about your podcast again, man?
Yes, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for tuning in to Seismic Soccer, because it's absolutely brilliant, and I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get them to do more than one a month. I swear to God, because it's great. Thanks for having me on. I'm one half of What's the Script movie review podcast with Big Chris, where we dissect and take the piss and review our favourite films every week. You can get us on Twitter, Spotify, YouTube, and I'm not going to rhyme after the other ones, but listen, look for us. You'll find us. See that dirty toenail you've got? See the dirt under that toenail? See when you cut that toenail? We're under there. We're there.
Cheers for that, man. So we kind of next week it's myself and Paul who are going to be doing Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So that's the next film we're reviewing. So look out for that because it's an absolute classic.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm taking my annual leave.
No, you're on annual leave. That's fine. If you haven't done, check out previous Seismic Soccer episodes from before. Titanic from last week, and check out Colin's interview with the directors and actors from the Dark Room. I listened to that, Colin. That was decent. It was a very good interview.
Cheers.
Done well. Well, I was sleeping in my bed that night because I wasn't staying up that late. Okay, so thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you have this on in the commute to work, and don't forget, we are Seismic Cinema / Seismic Soccer, and we believe in the power of escapism. Thank you. Over and out.